Hey, we've got Adam from Outlier. This is Outlier Insights Show. And as you can see, I have brought my friend Mark Drumheller from Fantasy Life, also co-host of the podcast, Bringing Home the Hardware. Mark, the man with the greatest Delco accent, as I tell everyone. But how you doing, buddy?
The claim to fame. I'm doing well, man. Playoffs have been good. We hit everything last week, so we're looking to keep it rolling. But this time of year is always fun because it's a little bittersweet because it's like you get the games you've been waiting all season to see. Everything matters at this point. There's no games off for anybody. But then, we're down to I think there's six more games total. Four this
Yeah.
week and then 2-1, so seven actually. Six not counting the Super Bowl. So we're getting to the end here.
Yeah, and this is a good way for us to cope with how our Eagles did on Monday. But yeah, as Mark kindly alluded to, Mark was 6-0 last week. Mark's been actually killing it on the playoffs. And you guys all know he was back here before for college football, but he's been killing it for football. So we're going to jump right in. We're going to go through some of the games. We're going to do a couple picks, and then we'll maybe even try to mess around and build a parlay. So, all right, let me use my boomer old tech skills and get this up for us.
Oh, look at this
look at
stuff.
that. Oh, look at this. All right, cool. Let's start with the Texans game, with the Texans and the Ravens. Mark, what are you thinking on this one? I also want everyone to know, you're one of my good friends, and so I do hype you a lot, tout you a lot. But you did say at the draft, you said my favorite quote about CJ Stroud, which is the last time we saw CJ Stroud, he dropped 1 billion points on one of the best defenses in college history, and people are arguing whether or not he's a top 3 pick. CJ Stroud dropped 41 points on that Cleveland Browns team, which I kind of think we all expected, but he just was phenomenal. What do you think for this Ravens game? Does the dream end here?
Yeah, well, I think the dream ends. I think the season ends for Houston. I mean, I think it's tough to go on the road here and play the Ravens, who are the best team in the NFL, off rest. But I still think this is a lot of points. The guys over at Matthew Berry Fantasy Life, Friedman, they dug up a stat from Action Network. 13-26-1 since 2003. These number one seeds are against the spread. So, they get that rest, they get healthy, that's fine, but they don't have to win by margin here. And I think that's kind of the main thing, especially when you look at a running team like the Ravens. But I do think that the Ravens offense matches up very well with Houston's defense. That's kind of the key here. Houston, very good at stopping the run. Secondary is a little bit of a mess. And this Ravens team is different. They can push the ball down the field 8 yards per attempt this year from Lamar Jackson. So I think they're going to have a lot of success. I know the weather's a concern. It's going to get windy. The projected forecast is around 15 to 20 mile per hour winds. We'll see how it shakes out. But Jackson's got a missile, man. He can cut right through that wind. Super strong arms, so not even worried about that on that side. So I think Baltimore moves the ball here. I personally, when I bet it, I didn't want to have to worry about whether CJ Stroud to keep up or not. I think Houston's going to get some points too. I don't think they're just going to roll over and die here. So I'm going to be looking at the over. I haven't bet it yet. 43 is a key number. It's at 43.5 now. I want to see if it gets under, if that under money keeps coming in, pushes it under that key number of 43 and playing it. But I would play it that way, where I think Ravens team total over is worth a look, because I do think they have a very, sizable advantage over that Texans defense.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know if the weather's going to be as big a factor with what they made of the weather in Buffalo, where it was 40 mile per hour winds. 20 mile per hour winds seems kind of like whatever. But I do agree with you. Houston has this second worst deep pass defense. You can deep throw on this team. You can't really run on them, though. The Colts did it because that's all they did in that game. But really, the way you beat him is actually the thing that Lamar does really well, which is he is really good at throwing those 30-yard plays. So yeah, it's for me, I think it's between looking at the fact that CJ can be that guy and isn't going to roll over. But also, look, I will remind you that there was a number one seed that did happen to cover pretty easily. That was our Eagles last year. That game was not very close with the Giants. I'm not saying that the Ravens and the Eagles are the same, but I do like the Ravens. I'm not betting them here. I'm with you on the total. I do think that there's going to be points. I just think this Ravens offense is just humming.
It's
And
such a good
people
matchup.
could,
Like when you look at,
it
you
really
mentioned,
is.
Houston, I think top 3 against the run this year, but playing a conventional team against the run and playing the Ravens with Lamar Jackson is a lot different. Like his presence alone, you know, it puts stress on defenses. They can't really commit to their normal run defense. He has the numbers. When a quarterback like that has the rushing ability that he has, it sort of messes with the other team's run fits because he can do everything off platform. Plus, they have designed runs for him. So, a strong team against the run and a strong team against the Ravens rushing attack, 2 different ball games.
Yeah, and as you're looking at team total, just to bring up what you were talking about, if people like the team total, over 27.5 is plus 110, and the hit rate is the same if they had 29 or 30, and you get a little bit more points. Like if they get over 27, they're actually getting 31. So if folks are looking to go towards the team total on the Ravens, maybe just bet 29.5 to get plus 142. You can do that way. I know that one of the things I have identified in this game that I do like is I like CJ Stroud to not throw an interception. It's plus money. He's, of all the things that he did extremely well this year, and was honestly the first thing I noticed because he didn't throw his first interception until 6. He had his first turnover until 6 games into the season. He had a fantastic TD to interception ratio. I don't know if Marlon Humphrey being out, anything really is going to matter for the Ravens defense, but he doesn't make those kind of throws that are he makes smart throws. So I think they might beat him in other ways. I think what's going to happen for Houston is with only Nico Collins and Schultz and not having Noah Brown, it kind of limits him a little bit with what he's going to be able to do. But yeah, I like plus money for him. I think it's plus 114 for him to not throw an interception, which I kind of like. Cool. We're gonna go then. Then the Saturday night game is our friends, the San Francisco 49ers and the Green Bay Packers. Again, that's that. If you just blindly want to back dogs against number 1 seeds, is this the same kind of thing that we're gonna do with Jordan Love and the Packers, or what are we doing here?
I mean, yeah, but I think that how we get there is a little bit different, right? So I think, one thing that is an edge during the season, you can do it during the season, and it kind of plays into this one is when teams start ascending, when you have a young team and things start coming together, it's very hard for the market to project their future performance going forward, to kind of figure out where they fit in the market. And same thing when you see a team spiraling out of control like the Eagles, on the converse on the other side, it's like the market didn't know the Eagles floor, they couldn't project it right. I think it's the same thing here with the Packers. Like this Packers team went through some growing pains during the season with the offensive line, with Jordan Love getting on page with these young receivers. Now you're seeing everything blossom, and they looked incredible against Dallas. Offensively, they were able to jump on top of the Cowboys. But every time the Cowboys would try and score and make it into a game, they'd march right down the field and punch it into the end zone. So I think this is way too many points. I'd be comfortable with Green Bay at anything over 8 if I get 8.5. So I'm waiting for the 10. If the 10 doesn't come and I get stuck with a 9, I'm perfectly okay with that. You look at this Green Bay offense, since week 12, which is 8 weeks. Like it's a pretty big sample size. They're number 1 in the NFL in EPA per play, number 1 in drop back EPA, and number 3 in rush EPA. So they're not just throwing the ball. It's not just Jordan Love whipping around the field to these young guys. So this offense is elite. And if you just go back, if you take a smaller sample and want to go back to week 15, which is still 5 weeks, including the playoffs, they're number 1 by a country mile. Like it's not even close. Like Detroit's the second team, and they're by far ahead of everybody. So this offense is legit. It is for real. The offensive line has been playing better. So if you can get an elite offense like that and get 9.5, 10 points, I feel like you have to jump on it, especially in a situation where you have a San Francisco team that is very dependent on keeping everybody healthy. So not only do they have to keep everybody healthy during this game, but if they do get up in a lead in the fourth quarter, they're going to be more reluctant to take their foot off the gas and kind of rest people. They don't need McCaffrey out there for extra snaps. They don't need, Debo out there for extra snaps, because we saw what happens. One guy goes down, the whole offense falls apart in San Francisco.
Yep.
So, if this is a game where it's 2 scores at the end of the game, I could easily see Shanahan taking his foot off the gas and opening up the back door for Love. I think they're live to win the game, but I don't know if I want to go as far as playing the money line. But if I can get this 10 points, I'm going to jump all over it. If I get stuck with 9, if it moves the other direction, I'd be happy to take the Packers with 9.
Yeah, you can actually like really see it when you look at the Packers team totals. It's right around what week it's like let's see 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 10. Right around right there right around week 10 it just suddenly they just start scoring over 20 points
Clicking.
regularly.
Yeah, the
Clicking.
boys
Like
start buzzing.
it's very clear, like across the season. And so right now, again, their team total is sitting at plus money, plus 105, 20.5. It's actually, I think a good bet's a bet that I'm probably going to go make.
And I get it.
One of
Like,
the
it's a
things
really popular play. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, Packers, underdogs, let's do it. It reminds me a lot of the Rams last week, where everybody was like, oh, I really like the Rams, but I don't know. It's a public play. And you hear all this, like, buzzwords, over the internet on the timeline. And what happens? The Rams go out and cover. It ends up being the right side. So I'm not worried that a lot of people are on it. I mean, defensively, Green Bay's been playing much better. Seventh best tackling grade per PFF. So if you're facing a team that thrives on yards after the catch, you want to be able to wrap up and make tackles. I think they can do that. We want Alexander to play. That's not a given yet, but I think that they're going to do everything they can to get him on the field.
Yeah, I mean they're humming. They're doing they're doing fantastic right now. One of the things on the prop side that I like Jordan Love rushing yards. San Francisco, like the San Francisco defense is not the San Francisco defense of last year. They're vulnerable in a lot of different ways, and they can kind of force him out of the pocket a little bit. But again, everything is playing really. Everyone's playing well, and I think one of the things that does make Green Bay a team that you can be afraid of is they've got like four different weapons as wide receivers. There isn't like one alpha wide receiver that he's got to constantly pepper with targets. There's Wicks, there is Reed, there is
Reed.
Doubs, there's Watson, and you have two more than capable tight ends. It's a good team, and and then there's Aaron Jones who can just kind of do whatever he wants. It's a good offensive weapon team.
And when you look at it in this sense of how it matches up with the San Francisco defense, very pass rush dependent, the secondary, the weakest link of the defense. And now you have, a wide receiving core with good young players that has a lot of depth. They can go in a lot of different directions. It's just going to stress that, 49ers secondary. If they're not able to get home and put Love on his back, I think Green Bay is going to score a lot of points. And that's when it becomes interesting. Like, especially if they won the coin toss against Dallas, and they're like, give us the ball. We're going to put 7 on the board and put the pressure on the Cowboys. And we saw how the 49ers reacted when they got punched in the mouth against the Ravens. A lot of times they're so used to playing with the lead. They didn't know what to do. They let things spiral out of control. So I'd like to see the Packers jump out on them, see what happens. LaFleur and Shanahan, those guys are like blood brothers growing up in the system. So, they know each other inside and out. So I think it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and the total is pretty high. Like this is actually this is a very high Brock Purdy total. I think he's had maybe one or two games in the 50s that he's actually been part of. And like that system again like works really well. One of the plays that I am on for him that's a lot of fun with is under his passing attempts, under 30 and a half. He's actually only gone over 30 and a half passing attempts 5 times in his career. Just because that's, like you said, the way this offense goes is that they kind of they'll run it and they'll run things up the gut and they'll bleed clock and they'll do things in that way. So if he has to throw 40 times, something went horribly wrong. So that's something I'm looking at.
Historically, like he gets tighter in these games, man. In the postseason, he gets a little bit tighter. And I'm not saying he's a bad coach, not saying he can't win a Super Bowl, but his history shows like when he gets in these spots, he gets a little bit conservative.
Yep. Nope. Nope. We've seen it. We saw it very, very famously against the Rams in the NFC Championship. Was definitely a time when that happened.
And 28-3. We can't forget about 28-3, right? Offensive coordinator for the
Falcons. He still gets smoked for that. All right, going to Sunday. Bucks who beat our Eagles. Man, Baker, like I'll give them credit. I'm gonna give him credit because Baker had so much zip on that ball, and I completely forgot that he threw for 4,000 yards this year. Bucks, Lions, a lower total actually than the Niners game. But what are you kind of thinking in here? We got a domed game, so we don't have to worry about any weather. What are you kind of looking at with this Lions? Is this Lions team for real? Is this the Jared Goff victory tour that's going to happen, or what?
I think it might be. Like, I don't know if they're for real, but like they took a big step last week. Like them winning a close game like that and doing it, like having the ball and having to close the door and being aggressive, throwing, on early downs to kind of lock things up. Like I thought that spoke volumes. And I listen, I was always a detractor of Jared Goff, but he seems to be in his bag a little bit, and we'll see if it continue. Todd Bowles is going to blitz him a ton, right? We know that that's how Tampa operates on defense, but he's been really good against the blitz. Like if you look towards the end of the year, they played Minnesota twice. They put up, I think, 30 points against them both times. They played Denver. Minnesota leads the NFL in blitz rate. They played Denver, 7th in blitz rate. They put 42 up on Denver.
42.
Yeah, so he's been good with the blitz. Like he's not, and listen, is he going to be perfect? No, but I think Ben Johnson's going to have him prepared enough here to be able to, move the ball in this Buccaneers defense. And that's really how I attacked it. So I took Detroit over 27.5 for their team total. I think that's the best way to touch it. I think both offenses are going to score here. I think the Buccaneers offense looked really good against the Eagles, even though every offense looks good against the Eagles. But I liked that they didn't sit there. They weren't too stubborn with the run. They were letting Baker whip it around the field and probably would have scored 50 if they caught half of those passes, drop passes all over the field. So I think, Lions secondary is bad. Like that's really probably the weakest unit in this game is the Lions secondary on both teams. So I think the Bucs can score points, and that's just going to add pressure, like scoreboard pressure. It's going to force the Lions to play with urgency, run on offense, continue to put up points. So I thought, I would have loved to get it at 26.5, but it wasn't available. And I thought 27.5 was going to be as low as it's going to go. It's an indoor game. It's not like we're going to see a bunch of, under money coming in because of weather or anything like that. So I just grabbed it at 27.5. I think that's a solid play.
Yeah, I'm on that as well. I'm on the 27.5. And then I actually, again, this is the same kind of thing. I did some on the 29.5 because it's +1. I mean, they don't get 28 points at home. They get 30. They did it 5 out of their 9 home games. I also agree these are both pass funnel defenses. You can't really like Tampa Bay with the 5th best rush defense in the league, and Lions are top 3 as well. I mean, you can't run through them, so you're going to be able to pass on these teams. Tampa Bay left a lot of points on the board, but I think Baker looks great. I like Baker to throw for 270. Like I think that's more than capable. Stafford got basically knocked out, and he still threw for 270 last week.
Yeah, that was scary.
So,
and I think tight ends are going to be big in this one. I like Laporta and Otten. I think their props are around like mid 30s, 30 somewhere in that range. I think they both go over that. I think middle field's going to be wide open for both teams.
No, that's another one I'm looking at. All right, the final one that we've got this weekend is, I feel like we've seen this game 15 times, but we're going to see the Chiefs and the Bills again. Is this going to be any different than the previous times? Is this going to be? Are we?
Well, I mean, the previous time this year, Buffalo won, so it might be different than that.
I guess playoff Chiefs.
I like Kansas City. I was able to grab a 3, yesterday. I jumped all over that. I had to pay the extra dime, got a -120, but I think it's well worth it. I mean, I just, me, I've been below market on Buffalo all season, made a lot of money fading them in some big spots. And I don't know. I bet them last week. I mean, I laid the 10 because they were playing Mason Rudolph, but there's a big gap between Mason Rudolph and Patrick Mahomes. I understand this Chiefs offense has not been the same this year, but what we're seeing, and this reminds me a lot of when Aaron Rodgers finally bought into Christian Watson and started trusting him and made him the number 1 guy. We're seeing that in Kansas City now with Rashee Rice. Really developing, my guy from SMU, Rashee Rice, really developing into a true number 1 there. Had the huge game. I think he had 130 yards. They had like 400 yards against that Miami defense, which I get it, banged up, but still Vic Fangio defense. And, I think that they're going to be able to score points here on Buffalo. I think Rice, when you look at the injuries, like I don't know, what Bernard's status is in the middle of the field, linebacker.
He had 140 tackles this year. That's hard to replace, man.
Yeah, but you saw against this Buffalo defense, you saw, Freiermuth, 5 receptions, 76 yards, open all over the place. Kansas City's got a pretty good tight end. He's having a rough year. He's got a lot going on with Taylor Swift and the podcast and all that, right? But he's going to be laser focused for this one. I think he has a big game. So I really like Kansas City. But what it really comes down to is, what quarterback do you trust the most? not to make the big mistake in the fourth quarter or to drive his team down and get in the end zone. And it's Patrick Mahomes. And what coach do you have, more faith in having their team prepared in this situation? I think it's Andy Reid.
Yeah. Look, I haven't been impressed with the Bills at all this season. I'm not saying I'm loving the Chiefs, but Chiefs leave a lot of points on the board. Bills really don't play full games at all, which I think is going to be detrimental. Against common opponents too. Kansas City was 10-3, and the Bills were 6-6. So like this is definitely like the Bills played mid against the same type of teams. I was pulling up what the Josh Allen interception is, and actually it's basically even money on MGM. It's minus 105, which we know he's going to throw one.
Well, if you look at the chess match on the field, right? Like the difference between KC this year and any other year defensively is Snead. And like they have a guy, he's just going to take out Diggs. So now Diggs becomes completely irrelevant. And they have one of the strongest secondaries in the NFL. And now they're going up against a Buffalo team that doesn't have any depth at wide receiver. Like that was the issue. That's why they drafted Kincaid. Like they just don't have guys there. Now Gabe Davis is out, right? So I think they're going to be able to lock down that wide receiver core. That's going to make Allen pressured into trying to like throw into some really tight windows, maybe get the ball to Diggs a little more when he shouldn't, when he's got Snead blanketing him. And I think that's when, those types of mistakes happen.
So, we've gone through all these things. Is there a play that, first of all, are there two plays that you just really love? And then maybe we'll spend a minute, we'll kind of put together a fun parlay that we can give out to people. But what are two plays over the weekend that you're kind of most confident in, or you're just more just honestly excited to kind of see how it goes through?
Yeah, I mean, if we're putting together a parlay, like I think Chiefs money line, like I like them to win that game outright. I think that makes a ton of sense. And out of the other ones, if I wanted to look at those other games, I mean, Detroit team total over, Green Bay. I mean, I
like the Green Bay. I like the Green Bay team total over in this one, in that too, because we'll get some plus money on it.
Yeah, that makes sense. We could do that. That's probably doable because I don't think the market has caught up to how good this Green Bay offense is.
I don't think so
either. And I think the San Francisco defense is a little bit overrated. So when you look at the spot, so we could add in the Green Bay team total if you wanted to do that. But I think Chiefs money line's got to be in there. I think they win that game, man. I just think that they're making a big deal about Mahomes playing on the road. Like going on the road's never bothered him throughout his career. I don't think it's going to matter.
I don't know why it would matter now,
because they're at home in front of those fans after underachieving, year after year, and after losing in the playoffs last year. I think it's tough. I think it's just a lot of pressure for Buffalo. I think that's a big problem for them this year.
So if we do a parlay of Packers team total over 20.5, KC money line, and then Lions team total, I know you and I both like that. It is on Caesars. It's plus 821, which is not bad for for all those three. 725 on FanDuel, but the best numbers are looking like, if we did it, would be on Caesars. And if you really want to get crazy, it's probably correlated with the KC money line. You could probably throw in a Josh Allen interception on there, and it'd probably go up to 10-1.
Josh Allen interception, maybe Baker over 1.5 touchdowns.
In fact, I think I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to give, because if we see a game script that goes that way, I'm going to throw in two correlated bets to this. One being the Josh Allen interception. And I think Baker, because like you said, they're going to push some pace here. So let me get some passing touchdown for Baker. It is boom. All right. So now we're looking at, let's see. Well, it's not going to do it all for me, but but it's going to be probably about 15-1.
Nice.
Not too bad. So I will give this out. We will slip this out, but we're looking at Packers team total over, Lions team total over. I like that reverse correlation. If you do Lions team total over and you do Baker touchdowns, it's going to read it that way. And then KC money line and Josh Allen interception. This is great. Mark, thank you for taking time to go through everything, man. I know you've been busy. Can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Absolutely. So you can find me at Matthew Berry Fantasy Life, fantasylife.com. Go to the free picks section. You can get all my picks in there, but make sure you read the newsletter. Subscribe to the newsletter. It's free. Tons of actionable information delivered right to your inbox 3 days a week. You can get the link. It's right on my profile at X_Drumheller on Twitter. Listen, you can find me on BetQL, filling in there. And of course, every Thursday, download Bring Home the Hardware. Kate Constable and I do a podcast every week on the awards markets. We ran through the NFL, and now we're kind of on to the NBA, NHL, and all that stuff. So it's a lot of fun. Quick 34 minutes, very digestible. Listen to it while you're at the gym, while you're in the car, whatever you want to do, but just download it wherever you get your podcasts.
No, it's great, man. Thanks for coming by. Everyone, good luck with your bets. Make sure you follow Mark, listen to the podcast, and we will see you in future video.